Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to begin now because we have a pretty tight schedule. I should mention there's an overflow in B002 on the other side of the big room in between us. For those of you who can't find a seat, but there are some seats down here and a few scattered up in Mickey's ears. Well, welcome. It's just so nice to be here and to see you all live and present. Pandemic has even given introverts like me satisfaction in seeing a bunch of people gathered together and being part of that group. So it's wonderful to have you all here. Many people worked really hard to make this particular event in University Conference both memorable and tasty. And I'm happy to see a room full of friends. I want to thank especially Jeff Turley for his beautiful prelude. Debussy's a favorite of mine, and that Children's Suite is just a great collection of music, so I'm grateful to have him here doing that. I also want to welcome my wife Judy, who's making a venture into public here. She's has health issues that generally keep her locked up, so I'm really glad that she could come and watch today. I'm really grateful for her support, and I want to tell you, you're so lucky that I have her. I would not be who I am without her, so in my life. I hope you've been edified by a cascade of conference talks so far, and will continue to be inspired by what your chairs, section heads, and others have to say later on this week. The bulletin that you picked up as you walked in, or that you can access online, is a labor of love and filled with information, useful and otherwise. We've designed it to make it a handy reference to keep close at hand in your office and by your desk. Today's program will follow largely as others in the past have. We'll have an opening hymn, Come Let Us Anew. Our chorister will be Juliana Chapman, Assistant Professor of English, and she'll be accompanied by Jeff Turley, who's Professor of Spanish and Chair of the Department of Spanish and Portuguese. Our opening prayer this morning will be offered by Matt Wickman, Professor of English. So, Juliana.
Till the master Our Heavenly Father, we are grateful to be here this morning as a college to renew ourselves and to prepare for the coming year. We are grateful, Father, for those who lead the college and the university. We ask a blessing on them both this morning in presentations and throughout the year. We're grateful, Father, for the work done by all staff and faculty throughout this college. Ask a blessing on each, that their wishes may be granted for what they hope to achieve this year. We ask for that inspiration as we work with students who have diverse needs. Help us to be attuned to those needs and inspired by Thee to meet them and to make contributions where we can to the university and to our fields beyond the university. We are so grateful for Thy love and Thy care and Thy inspiration and all that Thou dost bestow. We offer this prayer in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
Thank you very much for that, and thank you, Juliana and Jeff. I have to confess, at the first campus devotional we had this past year, when we actually met and sang together, I cried, because I miss singing as a group for so long. And I know it's quirky that in our LDS culture, in congregations, we have a chorister, and I want to thank Juliana for performing that task so willingly. But there is something about aligning our voices together in variety and in harmony that underscores the joy of gathering, so thank you. I'd now like to note and present awards being granted in our college and in the university. Each year we present awards to publicly recognize the great work of our colleagues. These awards are only a small fraction, however, of the worthy efforts and achievements that occur in a college. I'll begin with college awards, and as I read your name, please come down to the front to receive your award. The first award is the Humanities Plus Public Humanities Award, and it goes to Janice Knuckles. And I'm going to show you what the awards look like, because they're in a box and you can't see. So there's this lovely glass book. So anyway, Janice, congratulations. Next award is the Humanities Plus Student-Centered Research Award. It goes to Amber Jensen. And our third Humanities Plus Award, the Humanities Plus Experiential Learning Educator Award, goes to Yvonne Lebar. We have three Adjunct Faculty Awards. The first Adjunct Faculty Achievement Award goes to Tahira Carroll. Our second Adjunct Faculty Achievement Award goes to Rubia McLean. And then our third Adjunct Faculty Award, which is Adjunct Faculty Professional Contributions Award, goes to Darren Gates. Now, the college offers 4 longer-term distinguished fellowships. This is kind of a new thing. In the past, we've had the Barker and the Christensen Lecturer, and then we've had some other awards. We've now consolidated them. We've divided them into 4 distinguished lecturer awards, where each of these people, they're in 4 different areas, and each of the recipients will deliver a lecture sometime during the academic year. So, the first recipient will be Mark Olivier of the Distinguished Literature Scholar, Shoiba Feintz Professor, and P.A. Christensen Lecturer. So, Mark. The Distinguished Language Scholar, Ludwig Weber-Siebach Professor and Barker Lecturer, is Daryl Haig. Our distinguished teacher, professor, and lecturer for achievement in teaching and pedagogy is Willis Fales. And our distinguished citizen, rich professor, and lecturer for achievement in college, university, or professional service is John Ostenson. Now we have a couple of Humanities Center awards, 2 Humanities Center fellowships. The first goes to Ryan Christensen. The second Humanities Center fellowship goes to Kristen Matthews. Now, as you remember, there was a number of university awards that were also announced on Monday, and we'd like to present most of them now. Some of them are awarded at other ceremonies. So let me begin with Lisa Bernotsky-Johnson, who is given the Adjunct Faculty Excellence Award. Next, and this was pointed out by Shane Reese in his faculty devotional on Monday afternoon, an entire unit from our college got the Creative Works Award, and that is the Center for Language Studies. That's an award they'll get at a special banquet or luncheon that's held later on in the semester. The Douglas R. Stewart Teaching and Learning Faculty Fellowship went to Michael Call. The Early Career Scholarship Award went to Michael Labers. The Early Career Teaching Award to DeJuan Coombs. The General Education Professorship to Bob Hudson. And the Carl G. Mazer Excellence in Teaching Award to Trent Hickman. And the Phi Kappa Phi Award to Heather Bell. That is a lot of gold. I think we did really well this year in terms of university awards, and I'm very pleased. And recognizing that these awards, there's a certain aspect of chance in these because it depends on the university committee, and we've all known the university committees have different ways of thinking about things. So we're really grateful that they were recognized at the university level. Now, if your name is in the bibliography in the booklet, pages 42 through 46, where we have highlighted major scholarly works published in the last academic year. If your name is in these pages, please stand. We'd like to acknowledge your contributions to your professions. So please stand if your name is, or one of your works is in this list here. Don't be shy. Okay, we have some wonderful new hires to announce this year. Hiring at BYU is always a challenge. It's a very long, drawn-out process. It involves a lot of steps. And we're really grateful that we can find people who can fill the big shoes left behind by retiring faculty and the new shoes opened up by other people. So we're going to begin with Asian Near Eastern languages. I'm going to invite the department chair or program coordinator to introduce new hires in your section or your unit. So we'll start with Asian Near Eastern languages. Chair Richard Brown.
All right, well, I'm here to introduce Jeff Peterson. Again, we introduced him last year. He was a visiting professor last year, but we have him fully ours now and on into the future. He's even wearing our swag.
Okay, Center for Language Studies.
Okay, Heather. Heather is our new business manager and social director. And we also have joining the group, officially Jeanette Hansen is here. Jeanette is working with, what?
Jennifer.
Jennifer. Jennifer, now they'll remember your name.
Yeah.
Jennifer works with English Connect test developments, and her work with the Tabernacle Choir is really noteworthy. Okay, then we have Matthew. Matthew Wilcox is now joining us as a member of our faculty, and his specialty, of course, is statistics, and I can assure you he is above average. Then we have Molly. There's Molly. Molly McCall. You probably already know Molly. Molly is replacing Rebecca now as the assistant director at the center. And I've learned something. You can tell how much stress she's under by how wide her smile is. Glad to have her, Molly.
And I'm going to add one more person who's here who is so new to the office, it was too late to put it in press. This is Mariah Nix. She is filling the spot that I left, doing assessment coordination, and she comes from BYU background and ESL most recently.
I haven't met Mariah.
ELC.
Pleased to meet you.
Okay, Comparative Arts and Letters. Carries in the back.
We were able to hire 4 new faculty members into our department this year. 2 members into our art history section, Eric Eagley and Kenneth Hartwigson. And then we have Laura Hatch joining Comp Lit, and Luke Drake, our classics section.
Thank you. Digital Media and Communications, Josh.
This year we have hired a fabulous PR coordinator, Laura Ricks. Lots and lots of experience, and she's just wonderful. So if you need anything to look fabulous, go talk to Laura. It'll be even better than you imagine.
English, Lance.
We have 3 neophyte professors, none of whom is a neophyte. I'll explain. Jonathan Allred, is he here? Standing okay, over here. Goes by Johnny. Was a 1-year appointment last year, but now we have hired him into a CFS track. His specialty is digital literacy, and he's a part of the English Ed section. Second, Tyler Gardner. Is Tyler here? There he is. Okay. He's been around for a while. Is it a year and a half?
Year and a half.
2.5. He single-handedly runs the writing center in University Writing. He does have a few meetings. But he's been here for about a year and a half. We converted his position from an administrative one to a professional track position. So we're really happy to have him. Finally, we have Lisa Johnson. She's here already. Make her stand up twice. She has more teaching experience than probably 90% of the CFS faculty here. She's been an adjunct professor for 24 years and has taught a lot of sections. She has 3 specialties: first year writing, technical writing, and what's the third one here? Writing with style. So please join me in welcoming these 3.
Okay, this was beyond, didn't meet the deadline for the booklet, but I'm going to invite Daryl Lee from French and Italian to introduce visiting faculty in there.
So Carter Charles is in a kind of visiting position with us and on loan from religious education. He's been at BYU for about 4 years, taught for many years at the University of Bordeaux, Montaigne, which is where he also got his degree. We're happy to have him because he'll be bringing a lot of skills to the college, not just to the French department. Some of you may know him because he's taught several years in the Center for Language Studies, developing the language certificate curriculum for Haitian Creole. So we love having Carter here. Stop in and say hi to him. Thank you.
German and Russian. And Jennifer Brown, our new chair, is in the back there.
And we're excited to present Jenna Dalrymple, who is our new office manager. Jenna comes to us with 14 years of experience at BYU working in the other law. So we're really excited about it.
Great, thanks. Liberal arts, advisement, and career. Sharon.
Okay, I want to introduce our new diversity and inclusion officer for the college, Bruce Haraguchi, who's back here. We're really excited to have him. He will be working closely with our center, with you, and with the college's committee. So welcome, Bruce. Ciel Salazar is our new advisor, and I don't think she's here, I don't see her. She is our new advisor for Cal philosophy, and of course we do some FHSS, so she does sociology for FHSS. Some of you may know Sarah White worked with languages and left us a couple of months ago, and I successfully conned Doug Porter into coming back to BYU to work as our language advisor. So he's not here today either, but is happy to be back with us. And then Melanie Bailey. Is Melanie here? Okay, Melanie Bailey is our new office specialist. You guys will probably have the most contact with her through NSO. She keeps us all from falling apart. We're really excited to have her here too. And then 2 new for this is Kate Felt, who is just joining us this week. And she comes to us with a marriage and family therapy background. And she will be working with our psychology majors.
Okay. Linguistics, Dan Dewey.
So in the booklet, you'll see Lorena Hinkson is listed. I don't see Lorena. She's around somewhere, I'm sure. But she is renewing as a visiting faculty member. The reason I thought it was important to introduce her is she's teaching a course on language and law this year, which is certainly open to students from other majors with an interest in law, but they have to have a background, some background in linguistics. And next you have Miriam Whiting, who is joining us this year as a visiting faculty member. Miriam has taught for us as an adjunct for some time. She has just an extraordinary, I guess, rapport with our students, and great reputation as a teacher. And her background is in discourse analysis and Russian and Slavic linguistics, and she also is teaching in our editing program.
Philosophy by David Jensen, our new department.
We'd like to welcome Taylor Gray Miller. He is one of our star students, undergraduates from the past, who's come back to join us. Taylor Gray is an outstanding and enthusiastic interlocutor, very much in the Socratic tradition, so watch out, but welcome.
Spanish and Portuguese.
We have a few people that were actually here last year but didn't make it into the introduction last year. One is our office manager, Linda Chaston. I don't know if Linda's here. She is here. Here's Linda Chaston. She's been an absolute blessing and boon to our department, and we look forward to working with her this year. We have a graduate program coordinator who's been new this year, who's been with us for a while, Mary Kay Ames. Is Mary Kay with us here? Oh, she is, there she is. Two faculty members who were actually here last year, but I'll introduce now. One is Jordan Jones in Brazilian literature. Jordan comes from Brown University. The other is a visiting professor, Jacob Price. I don't know if Jacob's here. Jacob. But Jacob is in the area of Latin American literature, and so we're glad for Jacob. Round of applause for Jacob. Two brand new faculty. One of them I can only present to you in name because she's in Brazil, still trying to get a visa to come. It was sort of a later hire. Her name is Desiree Oliveira, who just completed her PhD at the Federal University of Minas Gerais in Brazil, one of the leading universities in Latin America, and she will be doing second language acquisition in Portuguese. Desiree. Hire is also technically hired last year, but kind of new to us. It's Tomas Hidalgo. I don't know if Tomas is here today. Tomas is a professional track faculty member in the area of Spanish American literature.
Welcome those of you who are new, and please welcome them here, if you are not new. Now, as I've mentioned in the past, Native American, Hebrew, and other traditions change names to signal important life events. And we do the same in college. We change names when you successfully pass ranking status obstacles. And let me introduce you to some faculty with new names. Would you please stand as your name is called and remain standing to absorb the glory of the moment, which you will live over and over again in your lives every time people call you by this new name. So, continuing faculty status candidate, Shinsuke Tsuchiya, would you please stand? And continuing faculty, let's hold the applause till the end. Well, actually, it's more glory, so. Continuing faculty status candidate, Ellen Nell. Continuing faculty status candidate, Charles Otten. Continuing faculty status candidate, Amber Jensen. Continuing faculty status candidate, Juliana Chapman. Continuing faculty status candidate, Dan Paul. Continuing faculty status candidate, James Hartshorn. Continuing faculty status candidate, Mike Hansen. Continuing faculty status candidate, Patricia de Andrade. Continuing faculty status candidate, Will Carr. I think this is the largest cohort of initial review candidates we've had ever, maybe 10, we had 10 people. All right, I'd like to introduce Associate Professor Rachel Yu. Associate Professor Mike Taylor. Associate Professor Chris Rogers. Associate Professor Katarina Paxman. And Associate Professor Samuel Lopez Alcala. Finally, let me introduce Professor Steve Reed. Professor Emran Esplin. Professor Earl Brown. Professor Wendy Baker-Smemo. Professor Darren Haig. And Professor Rex Nielsen. I think hiring and advancing are some of the greatest things we do in the college. So congratulations to all of you. We've now come to the time of the program that we call State of the College. For a panoramic view of the college, this is a good start. Read this through from cover to cover. You'll have a pretty good sense of where we're at. But we also like to update you a little bit. As usual, we have Jared giving a top 5, so you can all look forward to that. But after Jared, then we'll do another round of 90-second thesis, which we inaugurated last year, so we're going to try that again. So first, I'll turn the time over to Jared for his.
Okay, let's see. All right. Okay, so yeah, so this year we're going to do the top 5 on how to review your financial reports. And more specifically, for all the full-time faculty, your Fund 20 research accounts. So I'm sure you're all thinking, sweet, this is just what we wanted to do today, but the Dean and I thought this could be really helpful for you guys. So we'll start with number 5, and that is watch for the BYU Financial Overview email each month. So this comes out, Financial Services sends this about the 4th or 5th day of the month. Just a really useful report. It gives you a nice quick snapshot of your research account, tells you, you know, how much you've spent this year, and that green box is an important one. That shows you how much you have a balance available, so you always want that number to be in the positive. If it's in the negative, call me. But this is just a nice, useful report you want to review each month. So number 4, be aware that all those blue numbers are actually hyperlinks that can provide you additional information. So a really useful one is the spent committed year to date, where it says 2,066. If you click that number in that column, it'll pull up a transaction of all of your expenses for the year, which a lot of times people call me and want that information. You can just get it yourself really easily right from that link. And same with the spent year to month, it'll pull up the transactions for that month. And then to view your budget expense summary, you just click the operating unit or your research number, and then that will pull up a budget expense summary report with more detail. Okay, number 3. Okay, after you click that hyperlink, if you get this error screen, just close it and then click the link again and it'll work the second time, I promise. I don't know why it does that. I've contacted Financial Services. They don't know why, but, you know, still, technology. So, okay, so, and if it comes up with the regular login screen, that's okay, do the login, but if it comes up with this one, just close it and click again, and it'll work. Okay, number 2. You can click on the question mark in parentheses. It's on the left-hand side there. And then you can search other months. And so if you want to look up the current month, you know, for example, this is July's report. You just put in 8 and pull up August's month. Just be aware that maybe not everything's posted yet that month. For example, student wages, they'll post a week after the pay period ends and things like that if you're trying to get the up-to-date information there. Also, be aware that there are tabs at the bottom of that report too, so you can get a more detailed budget expense summary report by account and view the monthly transactions in that budget expense summary report. Okay, now number 1, and this is the question I get asked most at the end of the year. If you're wondering if your budget will carry over to 2023, and the answer is yes. Unless there is a red box at the bottom of that report that indicates budgeted funds are going to be returned. So if you don't have that red box, you know that all that will carry over. If that red box is there, it'll tell you how much won't carry over. And so, you know, you'll still, like this person, for example, they have 1,498 in their balance available, you know, and 500 something of it won't carry over. So they'll still have money carry over, just not all of it. And if you have this red box, most likely you were awarded research assistant wages. And so those we transfer over as budget, and you'll just want to have your research assistants work and use up that money before the end of the year. Any wages worked up till December 31st would reduce any returnable in that red box if you have that. So, okay, and that's it. So if you do all these things and you learn how to read your financial reports and you have your budget's carrying over, you're gonna feel like this and you're dancing in your office.
That was great. Well, now as I mentioned, we have a chance to hear more from other people in the college. So I will introduce the game of 90-second thesis. Let's see. Oh, actually, no, give me a second. I've got a good report to tell you. In meetings on many other occasions, President Worthen and Academic Vice President Reese and other senior administrators at BYU have shared their satisfaction with and gratitude with the work that we're all doing here, and I want to join them in that thanks. And I want to thank you for your dedication and consecration to your students, a manifestation of charity that reflects the love of our Savior in all the best ways. Although an average, this is a statistic that we learned this year, an average of 75% of the students in college classes are not majors in our programs. There are colleges at the university where no students in their classes are not majors. And in our case, 75%, 3 out of 4 students on average in class are not majors. And this graph kind of shows it over the years. It was actually 66% 10 years ago, so it's a rising number. I believe most of us care deeply about these students, even though they're not majors. We are committed to adding value to their lives and consider them our students because they're in our classroom. That's the mark of a true shepherd, being willing to expand one's concern to include those outside the fold. I'm proud to have such colleagues, and as I interact with other deans, I'm really grateful that the spirit of our college is education for all and lifelong learning. And I think rather than just to focus on, well, if there are majors, we'll focus on them and devote our resources to them only. Now for something completely different. I've invited 10 people. There we go, 90-second thesis time. I've invited these 10 people who represent different aspects of the college. They each have 90 seconds with one slide, and if they go over, they're disqualified. And when we're done, we're going to award prizes. Well, a prize to the winner, and we'll do that by, I will measure your applause. We'll have the applause meter at the end. So you can applaud for them individually, but withhold your judgment until the end, and then we're going to go through the names one more time and let you. So Josh is going to be our first guinea pig with this. So Josh, up here. Yeah, people would like to hear you at home, so come on over here too. And I've got my trusty phone.
Tell me when to go.
Yeah, 1 second.
Just keep in mind, if you vote for me, like Napoleon Dynamite, all your dreams will come true.
All right, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. So,
go.
Digital Media and Communications is the team that helps all your dreams come true, actually. We've done, as you can see in the slide here, this last year, this represents just a ton of work that we're doing to help promote the college. The faculty, the staff, and all the wonderful things you guys are doing. Tons of web articles, I mean, over 100 there. We reached over 35,000 accounts on Instagram, so we're reaching lots and lots of people, doing cool swag to reach students. We've done an Instagram/TikTok account here where we're talking about who killed the dean. It's our Clue campaign. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. It's really, really fun. We also help you guys reach students by doing these really, really cool t-shirts. Here's one from the English department that's awesome. I almost wore these, but I didn't have a chance to get them on. This is the linguistics one. This year we also published 32,500 copies of the alumni magazine that includes recipes from across the college, faculty, and staff. We've already received feedback from people that just love this, plus the cookbook that's inside, an online cookbook. Let me see what else I want to tell you guys. One of the things that we want to do is help people know the things that you're doing. And so we're inviting you to contact us, talk to us about the kinds of events that you're doing, the presentations, the lectures, the journal entries, because we want to present the college in the best light to show the world how amazing that we really are. Which means that you really are, but then still vote for me, because vote for Pedro. But yeah, you guys are amazing. Thank you.
Rankin status is so popular. So you know that in March of this year, the university launched a new Rankin status policy, revised Rankin status policy. We've revised and updated our college Rankin status expectations to align with those, and you can see those on the faculty commons. You can look at that document and other documents that will help you know what the expectations are. It's not new expectations, but some of them are revised and more clarified. Three that I want to point out quickly. First is that we're asking everyone to track teaching improvements over time. This is something the university wants to look at. This means that every year in faculty profile, indicate what your goals are, what changes you'll make, and then keep evidence of changes that you do make in class so that you can show changes in student learning over time. The second one is, just so you know, those who are coming up for Rankin status review will be asked to put together a special CV that won't be used for anything else. Sorry about that. But it's really helpful for the process. It'll include, for example, annotations about your citizenship assignments and mentoring as well. And the last thing is mentoring. And this graph that you can see there is in the updated expectations, Rankin status expectations and faculty commons. It's now required for all Rankin status files and include those. Yeah, so information on faculty commons.
Good job.
Ready? I'm ready to go. As Corey mentioned, mentoring is now required in the ranking status process. It's of course going to bleed over into the annual stewardship process on certain. I just want to remind you of two concrete ways. They were on Corey's graph and they're in the document that you can very easily document mentoring and also for which you can receive funding from the college. So in the area of teaching, HUM grants, student initiated, faculty mentored, $300 now for faculty if they participate in those projects. And in the research, HMEGs, faculty directed, student centered, short term up to $5,000, developmental up to $10,000, and then there's even the lab opportunity up to $30,000 over 3 years. A lot of money for your work, so ask for it, please.
Karen?
Do you think it'll work if I skip every other word? Choose the translation faculty to help me out. Okay, you ready?
Go.
Okay. Humanities Plus has evolved a lot over the last 10 to 12 years, and one of the most impactful changes has been defining a core set of competencies that every student can develop and cultivate during their studies here. So why focus on this particular area? While job markets have traditionally demanded a certain skill set, employers are increasingly expecting graduates to possess behavioral capacities, knowledge, and abilities in equal measure. Possessing a strong set of competencies allows students to excel as professionals, members of the church, citizens, and members of their communities and families. So humanities students have an abundant opportunity to build competencies, but particularly three. And those three are cultural navigation, information literacy, and communication. These competencies are inherent in your course of study and all the things that you teach. You're teaching students every day how to navigate cultural differences by teaching them to examine both their own cultural values and those of the people around them. Lessons in cultural navigation, for example, exist in the literature we read, the languages we speak, and the art we love and examine. Our coursework also fosters information literacy as we teach students to identify credible sources of truth, to answer difficult questions, and articulate their findings. And in every way, the Humanities is training students to communicate in spoken word, but especially in written form. We can be intentional about identifying these competencies and enabling students to understand, practice, and articulate them. And this builds career readiness.
Perfect.
Good morning, everyone. As many of you know, my main responsibilities are in curriculum, assessment, and graduate studies. And this means that I think a lot about teaching. Lately, I've had an early teaching experience recur to my mind. As a graduate student teaching freshman composition, I had a non-traditional student in my class. She'd raised a family, and she was returning to complete a nursing degree. The nursing program required that she retake freshman composition, and she was not happy about this at all. During the course of the class, though, her writing improved substantially. A couple of years later, I ran into her, and she said, "I am so glad I took that class. I had no idea those writing skills would be so important as a nurse." I was gratified, but more importantly, I realized how beneficial it would be for me as a teacher to be able to communicate the wider value of the skills I was teaching. Up on the screen, as Jeremy mentioned, are our college competencies, short, concise concepts that can help us identify for our students the transferable skills that are common to our disciplines and that employers value. I'm sure that many of you have excellent ways of explaining their importance to students. If you do, I hope you share them with colleagues, and I would appreciate hearing about them as well. Thank you.
Great. I apologize for the state of this slide.
Just look at the lower part. Working on a behavioral competency, and that is being able to complete a speech in 90 seconds. So I got the advice to put it in an outline, which I've done. Okay. Down at the bottom of the right, notice we have added to 5 departments in the college a new CIP, Classification of Instructional Program. We found out that just having expertise in publishing in the area is enough to qualify the department for having that competency listed officially on the board, so we've added it across the college almost. Coming up, NATO conference of language educators. Because of BYU's reputation as a center of language excellence, this is the first time that NATO educators on language instruction are going to come to a U.S. university to hold their conference. We also want to remind you, if you look at the strategic plan for the whole university, language is there as a separate element. We are hopeful that the new GE program will therefore retain an expanded language requirement.
7 seconds.
MA program is working in Chinese. Thank you.
Okay, here at ODH we have chosen 3 points that we want to highlight, and we wanted a mnemonic device that would send those points straight to your brain. So, COVID testing. Co for collaborations. One of the main focuses of ODH is to help faculty members with their research. If the questions that you are asking could be addressed using digital tools, contact us. If you have a hunch that digital tools could help you ask new questions about your material, contact us. Brian Croxall is currently serving as our projects coordinator. Reach out to him and he'll walk you through the process. Vid, here at ODH we also build digital tools that serve the whole college, such as our new video streaming service, Y Video. It's more robust and secure than Hum Media, which it is replacing. If you have used Hum Media in the past and have not yet requested for your video collections to be transferred to Y-Video, you need to contact us ASAP. On the Hum Media homepage, you will find a big red link with directions on how to do so. Testing. In ODH, we also oversee technology, hardware, and some physical spaces here in the JFSB. We wanted to highlight our proctored testing lab in B153 JFSB. Students in the lab take their tests on computers, meaning that they can type their essays, they can have full color images as well as sound or film clips. We can construct the exam in the format that you want, or we can also administer exams that you have put together in Learning Suite. The students sign up for exam times online. More info is available on our website, odh.byu.edu. Collaboration, video streaming, testing. Thank you.
Right.
If I walk slow, you have more time to read. The Humanities Center at BYU does so much. You can see a variety of those things on this slide. I only want to bring your attention to one of the many, many events that are happening this semester. On October 12th, which is an unusual day, we normally never do anything on Mondays, but that's the day when he could come. Robert Newman, who is the director of the National Humanities Center, will be on campus for 2 reasons. He's giving a lecture on what are the humanities in an age of the political moment that we are currently experiencing. But in my opinion, more importantly, he's also going to do a session on what are the grants, fellowships, variety of programs that the National Humanities Center offers. BYU recently became an institutional sponsor of the NHC, which means that if you apply for one of these grants, fellowships, or various programs, you will have some extra consideration. So come to this event. It's Monday the 12th, noon, and learn how you can advance your scholarship and receive some support. Thank you.
Yes.
Bueller. Have we started? You're starting. All right, Faith and Imagination Institute. We changed our name. That's the first thing you need to know because we couldn't be a center anymore. We used to be the Center for the Study of Christian Values and Literature, which Scott said sounded like a wing of the United Nations, and so we've streamlined things a little bit. Under the new institute, some of the things we're going to do is head up the College Humanities and Belief Committee. That committee does a number of things, including the seminar for graduate students to help them keep the faith, and also other good initiatives in the college. If you're a person of faith, imagination, or just general interest, we hope that you'll want to be involved in some ways. Please talk to me. We also continue to publish Literature and Belief. That's our journal that is in its 42nd year. And we're going to have some special issues coming up, including one on the On Belief Symposium that happened last year. This coming May, we're going to have a symposium on, what's it on? No, it's we're going to have a symposium on experience and imagination, and we hope that you'll be able to get involved in that and join us. More information to come. One final thing, if you would please promote for your students the David O. McKay essay contest. We get some wonderful entries there. I want that to continue. Thanks very much.
Go. Okay, for diversity and inclusion, I want you to remember 2 things. Pull up your phone if you're on Instagram so you can follow this account. Every week, starting next week on Thursdays up in 4101, The Intersection. This is a kind of event gathering. It's going to be all Thursdays, fall and winter semester. It's for students, it's for faculty. Sometimes there's treats, sometimes there's a speaker or campus club coming to tell us about something cool like the First Gen Club. It was works with First Gen students across the campus.
So please, we invite you to come. Please invite your students to come. Tell them about it often. Follow us on Instagram to find out about specifics and watch your email for other details. We're really hoping we can make this a big thing and outgrow the space in 4101. Second, do you want money? We want to give you college money. We're launching a new grant. We're calling it the Curriculum Diversity Grant. I was going to call it the College Diversity Curriculum Grant, but I thought the CDC grant would play poorly. Anyways, apply for money to hire a research assistant to work with you to help you diversify a course or a series of courses. Okay, we'll have details coming to an email inbox near you soon about the deadline and what we're expecting for the short proposal. And lastly, we want to echo the lack in welcoming Bruce Haraguchi, who's our College Diversity and Inclusion Officer, who's working with us closely and helping us connect to all sorts of interesting and exciting things happening across campus. Thanks.
Okay, yeah. Great, can I have all the presenters come and stand in a line? Okay, I have a decibel meter on my phone. So I'm going to stand behind each candidate and you will applaud, and I will measure their rate. And then the person who gets the highest score gets the top prize. Everybody clear? The winning prize goes to Jeremy. I hope that was instructive. Yes, I hope that was instructive. It's really fun to work with these people, as you can tell. We have some great talent in the college. It makes my job so much easier to have such great people I can rely on, and they have vision that is just amazing. So thank you. I'd now like to present my remarks, and I have a half an hour, which I haven't had, I think, for 4 years. And I've timed them at 22 minutes, so I'm going to relax and share these with you. As traumatic as the pandemic has been, a few unexpected silver linings have begun to shine through. Think, for example, of all those new things we've affixed ourselves to that we might not otherwise have tried during our enforced lockdown. In my case, it was bread baking and straight razor shaving. Another of mine has spilled over to the JFSB. Pandemically enhanced garden mania led to a midwinter enthusiasm for starting vegetable seedlings, which in turn led to an overabundance of seedlings and a search for new soil in which to plant all those seedlings. After careful consultation with administrators of BYU buildings and grounds, I have planted peppers, eggplant, and tomatoes in a few of the fallow rooftop boxes on the 4th floor balcony. My obsession is now your bounty. Stop by the dean's office throughout the semester to see what the day's harvest has yielded. First come, first served. And in deference to cautions from risk management about the dangers of chili peppers, we keep the hot ones in the back. You have to ask. And you have to sign a waiver when you take them. Speaking of harvests, in my university conference remarks several years ago, I mentioned picking plums in my backyard while standing precariously on the top rung of a ladder. For the sake of those who don't remember, I've leveraged the metaphor into a call for us to all use the ladders we find so bounteously at hand: our educations, the advice of our peers and mentors, the guidance of the Spirit, to rise above mundane perspectives and abilities as we teach our classes and do the unique labor we find ourselves engaged in here in the college. Today I will talk about another ladder incident experienced this past April, and it, like my earlier story, involves a certain degree of peril. I call this section of my remarks Ladders Revisited, or When is a Tree More Than a Tree? One Saturday morning in early April, I woke up determined to go outside at first light to prune a tall honey locust tree in our backyard. The locust tree had grown straight up and was overshadowing an evergreen juniper tree beside it, limiting the growth of the juniper and making it deviate from a symmetrical round shape. The trees were coming out of dormancy and the sap beginning to rise in earnest, so I had little time to waste. My first order of business was to take out the overhanging locust branches, then trim up some of the juniper's haphazard growth. Since the locust was so tall, I needed to use our extension ladder to reach the targeted 2 upper branches. I leaned it against the wide trunk, took my electric pole saw in hand, and climbed up to one of the branches that had to go. Within 15 to 20 seconds, I had cut mostly through it, heard it crack and snapped, and watched it drop down 15 feet or so to the ground. I sawed off the protruding stub, then climbed back down, and pleased with myself and the progress I was making, went inside for a quick drink of water, which I will take right now. When I came back out, I saw that I would need to reposition the ladder to be able to cut the side limb that contained the thickest overshadowing branch. So I moved and anchored the ladder, extended the top section, then, since it was at an oblique angle and much taller, climbed up with a length of rope and attached the ladder more securely to the tree. I climbed down, then headed back up with the electric pole saw, extension cord trailing behind me. I could just barely reach the next branch, and after several frustrating minutes of trying to saw, I realized that the angle of the pole saw just didn't quite work. So I went back down the ladder, set down the pole saw, climbed up, loosened the rope, climbed down, raised the extension, climbed back up, secured the rope, climbed back down, grabbed the pole saw, climbed up again, and faced the limb once more. I began, as one does, by sawing a cut about a foot away from the trunk on the underside of the limb, a third of the way through the branch, so that when the final cut is made, the weight doesn't tear the branch down prematurely, taking some of the trunk bark with it. I was a couple of inches in when the extreme weight of the limb caused it to bend down, and it pinched the blade of the pole saw tight so I could neither cut nor wiggle it free. I let go of the pole, and it just hung there 20 feet in the air. I was exasperated. My only remaining option, as I saw it, was to use my other cordless chainsaw to complete the final cut. So after unplugging the cord and dropping it to the ground, I loosened the rope, went down the ladder, raised the extension, climbed the ladder, tightened the rope, descended the ladder, went around to the garage, got my other chainsaw, then climbed back up the ladder to finish the job. During all of this up and down, I was listening to podcasts, 2 of which had themes about resilience and perseverance in the face of obstacles. It was both ironic and motivating. So with a deliberate and very triumphant 30-second burst of chopping, I managed to cut the thick limb all the way through. The freed pole saw immediately dropped straight down to the ground, and I expected the limb to do the same. However, instead of dropping down as well, the higher end of the branch stopped in midair, caught on the highest juniper boughs just beneath it, and the thickest section settled right on top of where it had been cut. All the frustration up to that point, narrowing my vision, I became obsessed with pushing the limb off its perch. So it would crash to the ground. I just wanted to hear that crash. It was just beyond the top of the ladder, so grabbing it would be too dangerous. I couldn't quite balance. Maybe I could use the saw blade, not really a tool for that purpose. Undo the rope, toss it over the limb, pull it free. That was just stupid. I was determined to persevere, though, and finish this job. Then I heard a very soft humming noise and a faint sizzling coming from where the limb was touching the tree. As I looked over and saw the thin finger of pale blue smoke ascending into the air from that spot, I was cut short from my obsession to finish the job. The far end of the limb was resting on a high voltage power line, becoming a conduit connecting that line to the ground through the tree. Now, perching 20 feet in the air, the top of an aluminum extension ladder tied to a tree that's channeling enough electricity to create smoke, simultaneously focuses and scatters one's thoughts in the oddest way. I dispassionately thought, wow, it's later in the season than I thought because the sap is running enough to complete the circuit. I remembered also, tragically, a boyhood friend who became an Air Force pilot. In his late 30s, he had been helping a younger brother adjust a TV antenna on his parents' roof when it tragically connected with a power line and he was instantly killed. It was a great tragedy in everyone's life. I wavered between heading down the ladder quickly or staying put, since I wasn't electrocuted, wondering which way might keep me safer, since I was wearing thick rubber boots and rubberized gloves, but I also wondered how soon the tree would burst into flame. I desperately waited, calling out for Judy, who was in the bedroom at my level, just 30 feet away, or sparing her the agony of watching my impending immolation through the window. I just didn't think that's how I wanted her to see me go. Now, to my credit, I had anticipated the prospect of the limb falling on the power line and had even taken that trajectory into consideration in planning how to make the cut. As is so often the case in our best laid plans, however, I had under-anticipated the influence of the juniper tree and other unconsidered improbabilities. As I anxiously pondered at the many mortalities crossing paths at that one suspended moment, a familiar voice, still and small, broke through the noise and told me to descend now. Chainsaw in hand, I cautiously climbed down the ladder and stepped carefully away from the tree. Looking up, I could see the smoke slowly streaming forth, but there was no fire in that particular burning bush. Only adrenaline in my heart and a profound recognition that God had spoken to me and I was delivered. After some poignant reflection and several deep breaths, I called 911. To make a long story short, I subsequently met some very friendly local firefighters who told me how pleased they were to attend a call with a happy ending. I was subsequently responsible for a brief power outage up and down Tempe Drive that day. While the city power workers shut off the current, pulled the branch away from the topmost 7,200 volt line, and told me several times how fortunate I had been. This is the actual limb after I cut the rest of it down. Life is, after all, a probation without a decreed duration. It can be over in a flash or continue well beyond our expectations. One way or another, however, we will graduate from the school of mortality, and when we do, I am certain that one of our greatest, most shocking revelations will be how often and regularly throughout our lifetimes we were protected, assisted, sustained, and guided by an invisible divine hand. Despite its frustration, peril, and terror, through my transformative experience with high voltage, I came to see more clearly that, although we are often even regularly bound by our narrowly focused ignorance, or even more so by our prideful arrogance, we can sometimes be mercifully delivered from the bondage by the still small voice. Never be afraid to listen to it, no matter how focused on other concerns you may happen to be. That's my cautionary tale. Both President Worthen's and Vice President Reese's remarks Monday emphasized advancing faith-based, high-quality teaching and learning. Both cited the updated BYU strategic plan that borrows language from the spiritually strengthening aim of a BYU education. Here are the action items introduced there, which read: 1, provide support, e.g. resources, training, other services, to increase the ability of faculty, particularly new hires, to authentically incorporate gospel truths into all student interactions and to teach their subject bathed in the light and color of the restored gospel. 2, provide support, e.g. resources, training, and other services to increase the ability of staff and administrative employees to authentically incorporate the gospel truths into all student interactions. I believe our college is playing a major role in making this happen at BYU already. Anecdotally, our alumni have been known on multiple occasions to remark that they experienced their best religious education at BYU in the courses we teach. More generally, student surveys in the college over the past 7 years suggest we are doing well spiritually strengthening classes with a 97% pass rate based upon the top of the range scores. Brian Croxall and I are working on trying to read these. We're currently conducting a review of all the comments to figure out some best practices that we can share with you. However, by way of taking immediate action to provide you support that will increase your ability to authentically incorporate gospel truths into all student interactions, as well as to teach your subject bathed in the light and color of the restored gospel, I would like to spend a few minutes talking about bathing. Although there exists a common sense of what taking a bath means, as is reflected in and reinforced by the universal orthography, the emoji, or more correctly, emoji. The truth is that the concept of bathing covers quite a range of activities. Odds are that your own ablutions within the past 24 hours were more likely a shower than a bath, reflecting an American preference for washing off grime with unending streams of hot water, rather than soaking in a tub. But a quick tour through other cultures reveals a variety of bathing conventions, including soaking in a natural hot spring, a very popular bathing mode in Japan, since emoji is a Japanese word. It stands to reason there would be an emoji for onsen, hot springs, representing steam arising from the hot spring pool. You can see that in the red one at the bottom. I've come to love Japanese bathing, especially in public baths and outdoor onsen. There is an indescribable feeling of calm, relaxation, and renewal that comes after soaking in very hot water. Humans have developed some intriguing forms of bathing, such as the Scandinavian sauna and the related Slavic banya, both using steam rather than submersion for cleansing. Roman baths have left their legacy in the Middle East with the Turkish-Arabic hammam, ritual bathing such as the Jewish mikvah, as well as the sweat lodge that plays an important role in some Native American communities, suggests a spiritual dimension to bathing as well. These various bathing conventions tend to divide into 2 primary modes: immersion or showering versus steam or heat. In other words, we can bathe using liquid or vapor. Returning once again to increasing our ability to spiritually strengthen students, may I suggest that those methods may also, like bathing, divide into 2 primary modes. One is immersive, the other more atmospheric. For faculty, these tend to align with the difference between what we teach and how we teach. For administration and staff, the division is less apparent, but the same principles may be applied. Along the immersive lines, in some contexts, we can be overt, direct, and upfront about how we incorporate gospel truths into our student interactions. If our subject matter allows, we can emphasize submerging our students in an onsen of texts, images, artifacts, philosophical inquiries, and other subjects that directly address elements of spirituality. We can also draw direct parallels with our own lived spiritual experiences and insights, expanding their horizon and helping them find strength through intellectual inquiry that underscores their growing faith. In these circumstances, the what of the course can literally be bathed in the light and color of the restored gospel. Professor Emran Esplin articulated this sentiment beautifully in his rank and status portfolio recently, describing the key to his academic and spiritual life as the idea that faith is an active choice, and that I and my students can choose to believe in Christ, in others, and in ourselves in every academic, professional, or spiritual circumstance. He invites his students to immerse themselves in belief. On the other hand, not all of us are, like Professor Elliott Wise, privileged to teach classes on religious iconography, so in some cases or in some parts of our courses we can borrow from the steam bath traditions and infuse spiritual steam into the way we teach. The latter category includes both overt formal measures. Some people open class with a prayer, use hymns, devote time to discuss the devotional, etc., those overt ways, or more informal modes that include interacting with our students using kindness, charity, love, patience, long-suffering, and other Christ-like virtues. Professor Will Carr's statement in his portfolio describing teaching students at grad school at Irvine likewise illustrates the value of overtly directing how we interact with students. I felt the call to represent my faith as a genuine disciple of Christ and share the gospel the only way I could, by loving my students. Professor Carr fills the room with the steam of charity. Regardless of which kind of bathing we use, let me invite you to make it a goal this year to somehow bring immersively or atmospherically the Savior's living water into your class. Office hours, student supervisions, or any other interaction you have with students. To do so is one of the great opportunities working at BYU gives us and can be a unique and plentiful source of blessings and the joy in our lives. Max Weber, in The Protestant Ethic and Spirit of Capitalism, explores the notion of one's calling, seeing it as a Reformation development emerging from colloquial Bible translations of Hebrew words. He sets up seeing one's worldly livelihood as a calling in direct contrast to the monastic lifestyle. The only way of living acceptably to God was not to surpass worldly morality in monastic asceticism, but solely through the fulfillment of the obligations imposed upon the individual by his position in the world. That was his calling. The notion of calling is therefore grounded in the work in the world, as opposed to life in the monastery. Given the modern university's descent from medieval monasteries, one can see the division between ivory tower and the real world is a continuation of that dichotomy. The sense of calling is alive and well in our own religious tradition, expanded in definition to include lay positions in church service as well that might, in my case, include playing the piano for a bunch of little kids. This allows us the unique situation where we may sometimes, especially when things are particularly onerous, view our church callings with the same kind of weariness as we do our jobs. Since we work at BYU, we're also in the even stranger position of being able to see our jobs as callings. And I have to confess to substituting on occasion the term calling for appointment when I'm talking about department chairs. So I would like to invite you this morning to deliberately conflate job and calling as you consider your work in the College of Humanities. I think if we're serious about thriving here, we need to take the claims of BYU at face value. We are engaged in building the kingdom of God on earth by working at the flagship university of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That singles us out from all our colleagues and friends working anywhere else in the world. It makes us unique and gives us singular opportunities as well as peculiar challenges. One of those challenges is the ecclesiastical endorsement required for ongoing employment. As I mentioned in an email to you earlier this year, as employees of the church, we find that the stakes of obedience, although no higher for us than anyone else in the long term, take on a particular focus in the short term as we balance willful discipleship with its constant cycles of growth, error, repentance, and forgiveness, with the evaluation and assessment mechanisms of modern corporate culture. Simply put, we are more prone than most employees elsewhere to ask ourselves, can I sin and still keep my job? The urge to distrust systems that stems from corporate culture's inhumanity can come into direct conflict with the call to trust that is part of the life of faith. Like many other trials that come to pilgrims, we are mortified in our calling by the challenges of living in an imperfect world, rubbing shoulders with multitudes of imperfect souls who give us plenty of opportunities for growth through learning and to forgive and love. I especially include dealing with enough themes among these difficulties here. The difference at BYU is that we get paid to do that kind of struggle. According to Weber, the notion of life's work as calling has actually led to huge social and economic revolutions over the past few centuries. I believe here at BYU we're a part of another kind of revolution, one in which we come to learn and experience on-the-job revelation as we seek the Spirit in our labors and see the hand of God make us more intelligent, more wise, more kind and loving than we could ever hope to be by ourselves. I hope and pray that for you, the sacrifices and difficulties you face to be here will find sufficient and immediate reward this academic year. Another challenge we face in considering our jobs to be callings is the influence of such a self-concept can have on us in relation to others around us. For example, how do we participate in the discourse of our professions and fields while remaining wedded to the notion of our special calling? Or from another angle, underscored for us on Monday, how do we maintain sufficient esteem and stature among others in the field through our scholarship while focusing time and energy on mentoring students? The answer lies in the Savior's admonition to lose ourselves in the service of others, which at BYU largely means in the service of our students. We enjoy a great privilege here at BYU, in that we not only enjoy but also depend upon the flashes of inspiration that will surely come as we seek them in an occupational context. We have a golden opportunity at BYU, both in the classroom and as we mentor students in our research, to invite the Spirit to be our career companion and to invite students to do likewise. We can model for them lifelong learning that depends not only on hard work, but even more on the flashes of inspiration that come as we combine study and faith. Through the way we decorate our offices, design our syllabi, use the precious time given us during our associations in class, as we walk the halls, engage in banter with colleagues, even by the way we ride our bikes or where we park our cars each day, we unwittingly set the stage for divine intervention in the lives of our students. For the students we connect with, our example can make the difference of a lifetime, one that may influence them through mortality and into eternity. Can we learn how to best help them enjoy a brief but remarkable period of inspiration and experience that will change them forever here in the college and at BYU? I know we can, and that if we have desires for such outcomes, we are indeed called to that work. In conclusion, I'd like to underscore my belief that when we are on the Lord's errand, rather than simply cultivating our curriculum vitae, we can develop a clearer sense of where our gifts and talents come from. One of my favorite Ruskin quotes captures how our experience of humble service at BYU can, if we let it, lead us to a transcendent form of divine mercy. I believe that the first test of a great soul is their humility. I don't mean by humility doubt of their power, but really great people have a curious feeling that the greatness is not of them, but through them. And they see something divine in every other person and are endlessly, foolishly, incredibly merciful. May Ruskin's words, more inclusively rendered here, help us look for and find that curious feeling that our greatness is not of us, but through us. May it inspire us this year as we interact with one another, the administration, and most importantly, our students. And may we have the vision and the courage to be endlessly, foolishly, incredibly merciful. In the name of Jesus Christ.